All right, friends. Thank you all for coming to this last session. Anybody been here for all 5 sessions? Let's give those folks a big round of applause. Anybody here for the first time in this series? Well, let's give those folks a big round of applause. Thank you for joining. So since this is the last session, I wanted to kind of review where we've been and kind of get back to like the original thought that we were running with this entire time, which actually goes back to like the posters we had up, and at least what I was thinking about in terms of the ways that we judge other people are secretly, and maybe even unknown to us, maybe often unknown to us, the ways that we feel like we are judged, or we would be judged, or are judged by God or society or whatever it is. So just to kind of refresh us, and particularly set up how we're using the word victim today. So when we judge somebody else as an enemy, the interior thought might be, if I am not clear about which side I am on, I will lose my morals, people, and identity. That's the judgment we carry inside. I judge somebody as a weirdo. Internally, the judgment might be, if my interests and tastes are outside what's normal, I will be rejected. Foreigner, I judge somebody else as a foreigner. If I have to suppress my heritage in order to live in this place, get a good job, and be successful. I judge somebody as a convict. Raph was here last week to talk a little bit about that. If something bad happens to me, I must have done something to deserve it. So I didn't get a chance to talk very much last week, thank God. I married well. But one of my deep convictions is, as a pastor, I continually am shocked how much people who, quote unquote, should know better have this thought. If something bad happens to me, I must have done something to deserve it. In this kind of church, we talk in the opposite direction all the time, and yet this is still something that we all carry within us. And one of the things I wonder about, I am curious about as a society, is how much that is tied to the way we think about wrongdoing as a whole. So that was the kind of theological frame for inviting Raph in, is what is it about the way we've structured our society in terms of criminality, in terms of law, in terms of punishment, that makes us internally feel like bad things are always punishments and punishments are always deserved, and kind of breaking that apart a little bit. But that was last week. Okay, and then this week, finally, the idea of victim. I judge somebody else as a victim. Oh, you're playing the victim. That sort of thing, right? I shouldn't speak up, and this is what Max was talking about in her sermon today. I shouldn't speak up if I'm treated unfairly. I'd better suck it up and move on. That's the interior judgment. Okay. So, and again, the idea is that we can break that. Like, how do we get into a better place of grace rather than judgment? And we can intervene inside, or we can intervene in how we're judging others, how we feel like we're being judged, or how we're judging others. So, we're going to start with some scenarios. At each table, there are some sheets that are turned over. You can flip those up now, if you would. What I'm going to ask you to do is individually, on your own, read through the scenario and write down some notes in response to the questions. You don't have to answer every question. Again, this is just to get you thinking, reflecting on this kind of scenario, particularly if this is something that feels familiar to you. So we're going to do that individually for a while, and then you're going to talk as a group. Sound good? And I will hand out pens. Thank you, I forgot to do that. So go ahead and start that. I will come around with pens in a second. Oh, and online folks.
Is it on the website?
It's on the website.
I put it in the chat.
They can do scenario 1.
We'll use all of them.
Sure, yeah. All right, wherever you are is fine. So how about now you start talking as a group, go through the questions together, share responses, and go.
I was on mute. Is anybody there? Hello? Group? Is anybody there? Am I the only one?
I'm gonna call a timeout right now and ask you to wrap up what you're talking about and designate one person who's going to report out for the group. And basically just want answers to question 1 and question 4. What did you talk about? What was your initial gut response? And what do you think you're likely to do next? Take a minute to figure out who's going to do that, and what do you want to say?
Motion passing.
He would not have told me.
Giving her some grace.
All right, friends, let's come back together. Who had scenario 1? Who had Alex? Alex and online folks had Alex. Okay. On-site group first. So the wireless mic is not working, so I'm going to have to repeat back what you say. So if I interrupt you, that's what I'm doing. So what did you talk about in terms of your honest gut reaction, and what are you likely to do next?
Do you want me to say what the scenario was?
Oh, let me tell you. Thank you. Thank you, teacher. Knowing how this is supposed to go. I'll read the scenario. At your work, you are in charge of a team that is under pressure to meet a deadline. Alex, a member of your team, has been missing deadlines, is late to meetings, and is snippy when they do show up. The team is now at risk of missing its deadline. Your supervisor and your team members are looking to you to fix the problem. So, you confront Alex about their behavior. Alex tells you their mother-in-law is in the hospital.
So for question 1, we had a lot of different gut reactions. We had a few people that said frustrated, but empathetic towards the situation. We had some focus only on the deadlines and saying, why didn't you come to us first about it? I brought up maybe it's an environment where that person feels that they can't speak up about it in terms of someone above.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, what did you said something different? You just talked about the behaviors, correct?
Yeah, I took it as like judging them for their behavior before the explanation. So I was like, well, this is a bad coworker. Like they're making the team look bad, and something should change.
The initial reaction, they're just bad at their job. Yeah. But then also thoughts of like, I at least want to be empathetic, or there might be bigger circumstances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then related to question 4, what are you likely to do in the next situation? I think we came to an agreement. If this has been an ongoing issue, that's different than if it's related to this situation with the mother-in-law.
Right.
And if the behavior had changed, approaching him before everybody else got so annoyed about it.
Yes.
Being more proactive rather than reactive.
Right. So kind of sifting out where is there a longer pattern of behavior here, or is it actually the mother-in-law? So kind of getting into an investigative mode.
Did I get everything?
Yeah.
Do you want
Okay.
to see if Susie wants to say?
And Susie, do you also had Alex? What were your
Yes.
thoughts?
Hang on. My initial reaction was that I believed Alex. And it wasn't until I read the question that there was some doubt for me. I'm a person that is realistic. And I worked with, I'm a psychotherapist,
Hmm.
and I worked with abused and neglected children for my career, and the parents and the people that abused the kids. So this isn't my first time around the block,
Yeah.
but I believed Alex, but they never said if Alex was a boy or a girl, a man or a woman.
I believe Alex's pronouns were given as they in the scenario.
Yeah. Anyway, so now that I had some doubts, I that's when I get to like no holds barred. I'm just like, I tell Alex, that I'm sorry, but the responsibility is to be on time and to meet the deadlines,
Mm-hmm.
and that there would be consequences for attitude and actions or lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my initial reaction. But if I went with my first reaction, I would say, my initial reaction would be caring, and I would definitely address the snippy attitude.
Nobody likes somebody who's snippy.
Yeah, but then I would discuss, the problems with the mother-in-law, and how we could work around that
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
bring
So
it back
kind of
together.
getting into problem-solving mode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bring
Yep.
it back together.
Great. Thank you, Susie.
Okay.
Alrighty. Scenario 2. Who had scenario 2? Okay. And you had Jamal. So Jamal is your son. He is 22 years old and living on his own. That should be one day. While you are out at dinner with your spouse, he calls in tears because his serious boyfriend just broke up with him. This is the 8th serious boyfriend Jamal has had in the past year. Every time this happens, he calls in tears. So, honest reaction, and what are you likely to do next?
Yeah, we discussed it too, and we have several honest reactions. First is, here we go again.
Here we go again.
He needs to look more carefully at who he hooks up with,
Mm-hmm.
and also suggest, I didn't catch this part. Anyway, that's a maybe. Or a reaction, this too will pass.
This too will pass. Yep.
And
Don't worry about it.
right.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's at least partly Jamal's fault. So maybe point that out, that maybe he's a player in this.
Maybe he has some responsibility in
I
this.
thought it was
Yes.
later, very tongue in cheek. 0
Yes.
for 8,
Over-
maybe he's not gay. I don't know. I just throw that
I wouldn't recommend that route.
No,
Always recommend believing people what they say about themselves. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right, scenario 3, Maria and Amy. Who are my Maria and Amy folks? All right, good, because I need help with this. Not that this is happening right now, but it might. You chair a team at St. Gregory's that has launched a new evening spiritual growth program that's drawing lots of people from my lips to God's ears and getting great feedback. Maria and Amy are both single parents who often have to work late. They write an email to your team saying that this new program is excluding people like them. So what do you got?
Well, the gut reaction was that, yes, they are being excluded, and that you need to empathize with them because they are, they do have issues.
Mm-hmm.
And feel kind of bad about the whole situation. One of them said, well, it depends on their attitude, but I really think that, and the fact that St. Gregory has technology is a little different. It's kind of an easy solution. But I think if you talk to them or, say, well, yes, we agree, what kind of solutions do you think we should do? Or,
Mhm.
I think that we should ask them, what kind of solution do you, feel, or how do we conclude?
Yeah, so kind of bringing,
Right.
Like, okay, so tell us what to do. Like, we want to fix this for you. What are your ideas?
Well,
Yeah.
but because this was kind of an easy solution for me, because we have technology to make breakthroughs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we do church. You know, you can either go on Zoom and participate on Zoom, or you can, we film them, because, you know, I'm on St. Isidore, so I know we film almost everything, and so you can go back and check out that too.
So like, what are they so like they can always get access it some other way. So what's the big deal?
Well, that's the way I feel.
Yeah,
but maybe they don't want it that way, I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's what I mean, include them in the solution.
I'm looking for your gut reactions. So I really want the honest thing. You all are being too polite. What's your gut reaction, right? Yeah, D.
Couple on mine was, how can I fix this? I mean, it's just like, I go first.
First response, how can I fix this? Yeah. Did you feel a little panicked or threatened or like, oops, we screwed something up?
You could, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
We were using I used Catherine's example of how she schedules things. She sends out a poll.
Yeah, right. Sends out a poll. Yeah, Catherine sends out a poll, kind of giving anticipation of people's availability.
Everybody looks at their calendar and you have to let them know if it can be there or not.
Yes, yes.
And there's 30 people that are going to this class, so those two, you know, I'm sorry.
Hey, right? Majority wins, right? 30 versus 2. Come on, we got to do what's for the good of the. Right? Yeah, come on, for 2 people, right? Yes. So other people are weighing in on your scenario. This activated something.
Ask them if they'd be willing to work to chair a committee to find a different time, or would they be?
Hey, start your own program. There's nothing wrong with that. Single parents who have to work late, start your own program. I'm teasing you all. All right. Love it. You're doing great. You're doing great. Okay, so, hot button one. This is Tony or Tony. So this is a pick your own adventure. So hopefully, and it's these 2 tables, right? Okay, so hopefully you picked your own adventure based on which of the 2 sentences you felt most comfortable with. Either you firmly believe that humanity needs to drastically reduce its dependence on fossil fuels. You firmly believe that all undocumented immigrants need to be deported. And I'm sorry that those things tend to be correlated, those issues, but hey, that's the world we're living in. So, if you pick the first one, you firmly believe that humanity needs to drastically reduce its dependence on fossil fuels. New legislation is enacted that will outlaw the use of coal in 5 years. The local news interviews Tony, with a Y, a coal miner. Tony shouts at the camera that this policy will destroy his livelihood, his family, and his community. That's number 1. Or you firmly believe that all undocumented immigrants need to be deported. New legislation is enacted that requires all local, state, and federal government employees to immediately report anyone they suspect could be undocumented, or else face criminal penalties. The local news interviews Tony, with an I, a high school teacher, who shouts at the camera that this policy will motivate all non-white parents to keep their kids home from school. All right, let's start with this table. Gut reactions, and what are you likely to do next in that scenario?
So this is the Three Stooges table. When Dan mentioned somebody needs to speak for the group, Mo and Larry both took a giant step back.
We have curly.
And so that makes me curly.
Where's Shemp?
We independently all picked Tony with a Y. We thought Tony with an I was just too thick.
Okay, fair enough, fair.
And our theme was just to be, overall, was just to be supportive of
Mhm.
Tony. Try to show support, talk about possibly retraining. It's a 5-year window, you got some time to remake yourself. And don't get too wrapped up with something that's in the future that frankly, you're concerned about happening, but it might not really happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the last question, We kind of talked about having Tony seek additional support and kind of researching what other opportunities are out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's the cost and benefit of trying different things. So that was kind of our thoughts.
So, sounds like I got another table of good problem solvers here. Like, there must be some solution here, right? Yes. So, just to push back a little bit, so this is something that you saw on the news. You have no access to Tony. He's living in West Virginia somewhere. You're living in Chicago. So, what are you actually likely to do? You see this story on the news.
Feel bad for the guy.
Feel bad for the guy, and then move on with your life.
Really good job.
Yeah, yeah. Switch a channel, maybe? Yeah.
You gotta think about your own problems.
Think about your own problems? Yeah. Like, oh, that's a shame. Yeah. Gee, that sucks. Yeah. Cool. Thank you, table. And
Tony could be a relative,
Tony could be a relative.
so you wouldn't have, and you wanna help him out.
You want to help him out? Yeah.
And this is a lot of Tonys. I mean, this is a real life. We know of towns.
Yes.
Places, but this is happening.
Yes. This is a real thing.
On how you've been affected by this scenario.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. What else did you talk about at your table? Was that?
Same thing they talked about.
Okay, great. Did you also do Tony with a Y?
What I did, we didn't even talk about that, with the why.
Okay. Interesting. Fascinating. I'm always collecting data on you all. Like, ooh, what does that mean? Yeah. Nobody wants to talk about.
It's kind of hard because if you're like if you're a white person,
Yes.
you're not affected by that. I mean, you've kind of been immune to that kind of thing. So it's
Mhm.
really hard to put yourself in the place of people that have those issues.
Yes.
That just by the color of your skin.
Yes.
Make you things happen to you that certainly aren't going to happen. Probably are not going to happen to me.
Yes.
And I can't. That relation, how I can relate to that person is very difficult.
Yes.
I mean, you're sympathetic, empathetic, but it's.
Yeah.
You just don't know what's happening.
What's actually happening?
How
Yes.
can you correct it? If you don't know, how do you?
Right.
How do you help correct?
Yes. So, and several years ago, when during Black Lives Matter and all those debates, and now it's shifted into something else. I don't even know what it is now. But a word that was being introduced into our lexicon was privilege. And that is a word that then started triggering people and like, I don't know what you're talking about, or I don't feel privileged because I have my own burdens, right? And that's fair. But Peter, what you're hitting on is, and this wasn't the topic today, but might as well talk about it, that the definition of privilege, especially when it comes to race, is precisely what you're talking about, is you don't have to think about it, right? The things that are normal to us by virtue of something that we did not, it's an accident of birth, the way we look when we're born. And we live in a world that we can assume certain things, and other people don't live in that same world. But we don't know, and that is we don't know that is different unless we find out about it, right? And that's that kind of big wall to actually addressing problems and having dialogue, is that disconnect of information. Yes.
Well, one of the things that Professor Raff said last week, which I thought.
Thank you for calling him Professor Raff.
Kind of clarified some things to me, was being morally secure.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna sit there and rob somebody because you are wealthy enough that you feel moral and that you're secure where you're at, in your life. And so, like a Tony with a I, how do you know if they're undocumented or not? You don't know as a high school teacher whether they're undocumented or not, and it doesn't really matter by race or by color of your skin. Because I just had lunch this past week with a friend, and her grandson has a foreign exchange student. He's from China. And he was born in the United States but taken back to China. So now these dual citizenship between China and, you know, and I just find, you know, she goes, oh, it happens all the time, or, you know, it's just, and he's having some privileges
Mm-hmm.
that are different from her grandson.
Yeah.
That's a whole different discussion, but I'm just saying that you don't know. And I just finished a book about World War II again, and this girl didn't know that her grandfather was Jewish, but it was because there were 3 bloodlines that brought her to Jewish, that's why she was labeled as Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
And that scared me when I read that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because it's like,
Yep. So I don't actually want this to become a conversation about the immigration debate right now. But this was just an example of something that's very, very much on our minds, and therefore very relevant to us. So if you want to keep talking about this, maybe let's do that at the end. But if we want to get back to victims and the theme for today, so Dee.
Mine was, there's a lot of confusion about the immigration and race. Keep forgetting people like Polish who get bounced out, and it's not completely a racial issue,
Correct.
okay?
Yes.
eh.
All right.
Yep. Okay, we're not going to talk more about that. But we might talk about it more, but I want to keep with the topic for today, which is what do we do when we're confronted with things like this? Or what do we do when we're confronted with, we're not doing Gerald, with these ordinary everyday scenarios or with these big issues in the news, all these sorts of things. Because the thing that I kept hearing from all of you, which was perfectly reasonable and understandable, and I would do the same thing, is to jump right into the problem solving. Or jump right into, even sometimes, into that the problem is the person, right? And even I heard you kind of like, well, maybe there's some solution that's bigger, or maybe the problem is really them, right? Maybe they're just not a good worker. Maybe they need to develop their own program if they can't access this program, right? Now I want you to hear me really clearly when I say all of that problem solving, all of that diagnosing, all of that kind of figuring out, wanting to get the facts, all of that is fine and legitimate. And it misses something when we do that. It misses an opportunity, and it misses an opportunity to actually be able to expand our options and expand our ability to take in more information that we need. Part of the thing that's happening in these scenarios, and often it happens in life, is that we're called to make a judgment and called to make an action before we've actually got the full picture of what's going on. We have, I don't know if it's about our society, if it's something about humanity, but we're like, jump right to what we need to do next. And I believe today, yeah, recording's in progress. Today's gospel story shows us something very, very different. What's the shortest Bible verse in the Bible? Jesus wept, right? So hopefully you all remember that. If you don't know that, you can remember that. The shortest verse in the Bible is Jesus wept, and that can help you remember this practice. Kind of go through life with the mantra, Jesus wept. Jesus wept. Jesus wept. Sometimes, actually in the UK, I think this is like a false oath. Sometimes people will say, Jesus wept, right? So if that works for you, you can do that. So what's going on in this story? What does Jesus do in this story, if you can remember? What does he not do? Sorry? He doesn't go to Lazarus. Lazarus is sick. He's probably going to die. Jesus delays in going and says, I think something good is going to happen if Lazarus dies. Basically, that's what he says. Lazarus is going to die, and I think this is an opportunity to show God's glory and help people believe more. So Jesus has a plan. He has a plan. He's going to delay, let Lazarus die, and then raise him from the dead. That's the plan. Okay, and now we're going to go to Judea with the disciples, and we're going to get there, and we're going to raise him. Oh, nope, oops. The sisters. Forgot about the sisters, Jesus. Forgot about the people who actually having their beloved dead for 4 days might be a big deal for them. And as Max was pointing out beautifully in her sermon, they had something to say about that, and thank God they did. They interrupted Jesus' plan with their suffering. And how does Jesus respond? What's the verse? Jesus wept. The plan, that's how I'm defining victim, is somebody whose pain gets in the way of our plan, right? We've got a deadline to meet. We've got a project to accomplish. We've got a ministry we're trying to get off the ground. We're trying to save the environment, or we're trying to reform immigration. We're trying to do this. We've got all these plans. And there is a human cost that comes along with that. Somebody is in pain as either because of or alongside that plan we're trying to accomplish. They're getting in our way. And we can just like, well, if you could just move a little bit over here. Okay, let me keep going now. We can do that. We can try to problem solve, which might be the next thing to do. But I really think that the practice that's being shown to us in this gospel is to stop. When pain gets in the way of our plans, our calling is to attend to that pain. So I'm defining weeping as a practice is, number one, you pause long enough for empathy to catch up with you. Because it's really, really hard to be empathetic if you are still trying to walk toward that goal. If Jesus was still like, all right, Mary, Martha, go over here, and I'm going to go to the grave now, right? Something would have been missed there. Instead, he stops in his tracks, and he lets empathy catch up with him. That's why he weeps. Second step, now we don't know exactly how this was supposed to play out, because John doesn't tell us exactly what Jesus had in mind. But I like to imagine that what Jesus did next was affected by that experience of stopping to weep and realizing that there was really real human pain happening here. There's a prayer he says, and I think that prayer reflects that. But for your purposes, is after you've paused to then reflect on what other options are available for you to achieve your goal. Let empathy catch up with you, and now reassess. And now do some problem solving. And now try to get more information. But if we miss that piece of stopping to let empathy catch up with us, we're probably going to just break that relationship. In any case, it's a missed opportunity to let grace abound. And back to the original thing of this whole series is that reinforces for us that if our pain is going to get in the way of somebody else's project, are we going to speak up? Are we going to say something? Are we going to risk being called a victim because somebody else is going to be irritated that our pain is in the way, that we're being affected? Yes, Butler.
Let's try another scenario.
Yeah.
I'm crying because Jesus says, I thought that you knew that if I show up, everything is going to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm crying for that reason.
He's crying for Mary and Martha.
Because I thought you knew that if I show up,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Everything's going to be all right.
it's going to be okay.
Okay. All right. And then what happens if we run with that reading?
Because in the sermon that she pointed out, Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life.
Yes. Yes. I wonder then if we could think of it as seeing their pain allowed him to express his pain. Yeah. Does that work for you?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Yeah. Which right? And that's kind of the thing that we keep encountering too with this series, is that gave him freedom to express something going on with him, right? Yeah. Okay. So we're a little bit over time. So I've got a handout. Yeah. Get some help. So this is the final take-home practice. Real simple, again, two-part thing. Pause, reflect. Pause, reflect. Pause long enough for empathy to catch up with you. What I did is I took all of those scenarios and I kind of gave a name to the honest judgment we're likely to have. Kind of going back to week 1, if you were here, about the importance of letting Satan have his say, letting the devil have his say. And also today, like, what's your actual gut reaction? Start there. Otherwise, you're going to be, if you're not honest with yourself about what your gut reaction actually is, then you're going to not realize that that's motivating you going forward. So with Alex, their pain is costing me something. With Jamal, I'm emotionally exhausted. With Maria and Amy, their pain threatens something good. How could their pain be legitimate if what we're doing is the right thing? Right? Being able to hold both, that both could be true. They could be in pain and we are doing something good. Tony and Tony, their pain conflicts with my beliefs and values. Therefore, I'm going to delegitimize their pain. And we didn't talk about Gerald, so you can skip him. So have a read through those and maybe reflect back on those scenarios or other scenarios that are familiar to you and make of this what will work for you. Thoughts, questions, overall comments about the series?
Thank you, it was a great series.
Thank you. Yeah. Does this make sense what I'm saying about the importance of stopping? If you just remember that, stop, right? Okay. All right. Thank you all. Thank you so much. See you Palm Sunday.